Okay, so the F-16's had a full wash underneath, anywhere with a light colour basically. It's had the dark dirt, and on the top I've used black where the gunship grey is. Works very well because it gives you that nice in-between stage. That's all off now, ready to go. Still got to do the tail, so obviously with the tail I just did in the dark grey. The reason I use the dark grey over the actual black is the black stands out far too much. Great for sci-fi stuff, bits and pieces like that, but certainly for doing this type of work, when you want the more sort of subtle weathering effects and you don't want anything too much in your face, it's far better to use the darker greys than it actually is just going in with a pure black. Pure black's great for things like wheel wells, cockpits, very dark paint, things like that, but certainly if you're going to be using it as we are over basically a grey surface like this, it'll stand out a lot better. So there we go, that's the wash off like that, and then we're just coming on to the final things. Usual things, in your little gaps, tease a little bit out with your teeth and moisten it, and then you can just get into little recesses and bits and pieces you can't get your towel or your paper towel into. So just off like that. And there we go, that's the tail done. So what we can actually do now is start to bring this together. Can go on just like that. I haven't unmasked the actual metal areas yet, obviously. And what we can do, we can pop that on. We can pop the tails on just like that, and then what we're going to do, we're going to give this a flat coat all over, just a light one to start with, just to even up some little areas of the patching. We've got little watermarks actually on the paint, on top of the paint, and that's from where the decal setting solution is left. Little marks on there, so we can get rid of all of them, then we can get it unmasked, and then we can start getting it all brought together. Okay, so over in the spray bay as we are, we're going to use this spray bay a lot from now on, purely because the dust in the office is getting a bit over the top. Going to use extra acrylics flat varnish. This is the bigger one, the XAFF size, which is probably worth getting over the smaller ones. Okay, usual thing we're going to do, bit of thinners in first. We're not doing this as a dead flat coat. Obviously if we were going to go for a dead flat finish, we would not add any thinners to this, but we're just going to put a drop in, just like that. I'm making the holder there. And then all we're going to do, just add a drop or two in there. As he's done already, tipped it down the side of the cup. There we go, just like that. If we give ourselves a cocktail stick, a clean one preferably. Oh, there we go. We can just give that a bit of a mix round. You can use a soft brush for doing this because obviously you definitely don't want lumps. Here we go, just a little bit thick and add a little bit more, bring this down to about 50-50. Just like that. Okay, good old mix. Around absolutely everywhere. Okay, comes the noisy part. Just check our flow, and then all we're going to do is literally nice passes right over the entire model. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to leave that just to dry just for a second, and then we'll put it on the top as well. Okay, so here we are. We're basically to the situation where the lights are all on, so we've just attached those, clear green on the inside as we were saying before, then all we've done, stuck them on there, and then I've gone around with the like 049 in this case, for the neutral grey, and just touched them in, all the little areas. Same goes on the top, the bits and pieces like that. Now, if you're going to fit the canopy and you're not going to have it in the raised position, it's not really worth putting these guys on the inside of it, because what happens is when they go in, they fill up this little void down the side and they don't like to close down properly. You can't see them when they're on there anyway, so that's another little thing. So what we've done here, we've got the HUD is in and just touched in a little bit of black, which I'll just zoom you in. Okay, so you can see the HUD just like that. Okay, pretty straightforward. It literally sits on there. A couple of drops of glue. You don't even have to use glue. It actually sits in there quite nice. And then probably, as you can see just there as well, we've got the angle of attack sensors on this side. They're just clipped straight off, painted silver. And then we've got the little pitot tube or PTO tube, whichever way you pronounce it, just goes on the front. I'm sure somebody will correct me on the correct way of saying it. So what we're going to do, he says, once he can find his knife. Okay, here we go. We're just going to unmask now the actual front canopy. Usual thing, I just put my blade just underneath a corner and lift, and then once we're lifted, we should just come away because we don't want to actually scratch the glass work. We just peel it all off. Then if you have got some overspray in there or any bits and pieces like that, what you can actually do is just get a cotton bud with a little bit of thinners on it and just give it a wipe, unless you've dipped it. If you've dipped it, don't do that because you end up taking the actual future off. Best to give it a little bit of a polish. Okay, so there we go, there's the canopy. Now, as I was saying, if you put the rail in, it sits in the open position. If you want it closed, you can have it closed. Personally, I'm going to actually have this one closed. I normally have them open, but we will close it. So we've got the little seats here as well, which we've done. That's a straightforward, just shove in. Be a little bit careful with your control sticks. It sits very forward, and then you've got two little holes at the back, and they just drop in there like that. So there we go, you can see that's in just like that. And then the canopy now is where you comes in. If you push it all the way back a little bit, and then push down the nose, it sort of slides in. A bit of a funny one, but you get a very nice, it meets and goes together perfectly just like that. Okay, so as you can see, we're basically done now. We've just got the final bits going on. So what we can actually do now is attach the little aerials and the bits and pieces to go on. So basically we've got a little aerial that goes on underneath here, so I've just put a blob of glue there to start eating, and we've got another one just up here. Alright, so if we fit the first one, which is the silver, I think it's the air data probe, that's just going to go in up here. Okay, let's just fit that in. It should push in nicely. So there we go, that one just goes in there. And we've got another one. Grab some tweezers for this. So if we just grab this tiny little probe again, looks like another sort of air data probe. Alright, and then that one is just going to fit straight up under here. Which is the usual thing, it's stuck. It's that minute, sometimes they stick to the tweezers. So if you dry the tweezers off, pull them on your finger. Okay, it's where the glue's quite thin and it just zips up the part when you touch it. So there we go, that's on. We just give it a little push to straighten it up because it goes straight down. Just like that, like so. We've done the same on the other Falcon here. As I say, this one's dry, it's just on there now. Obviously the nose one, needle's been put on and then painted the same colour up to like the first little area before it goes to a total point. Exactly the same as we've done on this one down here, and the angle of attack ones there in as well. Canopies are in and fitted. Glass part of the heads-up display is on. So basically from that point of view, the actual models now are totally done like that. The only difference is the F-16 for the Thunderbirds, you have this part here, which is where the tube, where obviously the coloured diesel that comes from basically, to be all technical here, that comes from here where the gun is. Obviously there's no gun installed, so the drum for the ammo drum is actually got like a dye in it, which is like a diesel, flows along through some internal piping, and then just comes out the end. Then all we'll basically do is there's a little gap between the tails and it runs down just in there. So what we'll actually do is get this plumbed in. So there we go, it will literally just run down the side and then plumbs in. So if you get a tiny bit of, I tend to find normal glue works better with this because it does tend to ping off, and just put a drop at those crucial points. And then I don't actually put on the end here, that's going to go on near the L-clad, because otherwise it tends to mess things up. And there we go, it'll sit something like this. With any luck it'll all stick. That's it. And there we go, it just sits in there just like that. And what we do now is just there nicely. Let's put a drop of glue just on the end to make sure it's all fitted in nicely, and we'll just leave it there for a moment to start to bite in. But then that's that one basically done. And there we go, both kits absolutely done. I hope you've enjoyed the build. Obviously we've covered quite a lot with this. You know, it is an 8-parter, and there's going to be a few little bonuses on the disc as well. Obviously we've done gloss work on one, combat colours on the other. Personally, it's a lot easier doing combat colours than it is doing the gloss work on this. As you can see, the underside's absolutely fine now on this one. That blue, just by hand painting it in, took care of all those little problems, and we're all okay with that now. Weathering that we actually did, as we were saying, just on the F-16, it hasn't had really much at all. It just had the dark modeller's wash on the underside and black on where the dark gunship grey is, so it shows up. Yes, I haven't armed this one. There's going to be a thing on the disc in a moment that's going to show you all about the arming and the other bits like here, and that'll show you all on. If you want to see about arming the F-16, if you just go to the tutorials area on the site, there's the actual link will be on there, and you can see me where I talk about making, weathering and arming aircraft and bits and pieces like that. Great kits to work with, my favourite kit of all time if I'm honest. It goes together so well, it's fantastically engineered. You don't really need any replacements. I think the cockpit is fine as it is, and certainly the air intake, me using the cellulose thinners and showing you that way, I've been doing it a little bit more recently since I've actually finished doing those bits to other kits, it works fantastic. Two things to remember: firstly, your health, make sure you either do it outside a respirator, or if you've got a spray booth, do it there so those nasty cellulose thinners get blown away and you're not going to be breathing it in. Secondly, make sure your cotton buds, use lots of them and keep them very moist and keep them moving at all times, and that way it works as a welding action and will take care of those problems. So you don't really need a resin replacement engine intake or a cockpit really, unless you've really got some money and you're going to have it perhaps all open and super detailed and things like that. Then obviously they'll probably be worth it. Great kits, no problems absolutely anywhere. I hope you enjoyed the build, and join me again next time.